So you've all heard this melody. But over in Saudi Arabia, if you were to play that, it would sound like this. So that scale I heard 5 times a day, because that's a prayer call. It goes, Allahu Akbar. So you'd hear that 5 times a day, morning, mid-morning, afternoon, then evening. So I was there for 3 years. So I heard that scale a lot, so I put it into a song, and the song is called Hijira, which was the name of my band out in Seattle, but it means breaking with the past. And for me personally, that meant when I left Cincinnati, Ohio to go to Saudi Arabia, and that was kind of a culture shock. So that's Arab. The reason I use this little device is I played for 12 years out in Seattle, and I had a big band. I had belly dancers, had a couple, 3 drummers, had a didgeridoo player, had a violin, had a keyboard player, had a violin, had a cello, had a big band. And but then it got to this place where to try to get gigs and try to get them bussed around and fed and everything, and it was not working. So I had to find a high-tech solution. So this is this little box, plays the drum and the bass and a bunch of other guitar things that I put in there. So that's what I use. So, you know, this lady right there, when I played that A minor scale, your reaction was mine. That's when I first heard that. And then as I did research on it, that A minor scale is called a jazz. We call it Phrygian mode, Western people do. But it has the effect, or it has the sound of the desert wind. So when I hear that, it's kind of a thoughtful, melancholy, kind of optimistic kind of sound. So when I first heard, and we don't in the West we don't have much except for Aida, you know, the opera Aida they use it, but pretty much not so much. They use just major scale. So that's some of the educational part of that. Drum-wise, I don't know if you ever noticed, if you listen on the radio, maybe some of your favorite tunes, all the West, it's all on 2 and 4. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in the Middle East, it's 1, 2, 1, 1. And there's how you go, and I have a, you know, reggae music is. Are there any drummers here? Perfect. So on reggae, it's all on 3. There's no 1. So it's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So that's a beat to use. And you know, a lot of people like reggae. It's kind of a popular thing, but it's most of the stuff that you hear on the radio is always 2 and 4. So I'm going to play a reggae tune for you. So one of the wonderful things with this little gizmo that I have, I can stop and they keep playing. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, moving. Oh, I gotta tell you, this is reggae music, but these lyrics are from Rumi. Everyone ever hear of Rumi, Persian poet? No? So you take a Persian kind of intellectual kind of guy and marry it to the reggae beat. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, moving. We are the mirror, as well as the face in it. We are the tasting, burning flavor. We are the pain, and but yours of pain. Beyond the water and the jar that pours. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, move with him. Keep walking, keep feeling, keep sensing, move with him. We are the slaves, and what sets us free. We are the love, we are the beauty. We are the peace, and we're the tragedy. We are full, yet we are empty. you're into the Persian kind of philosophy and Eastern philosophy, it's you don't pull people towards you, you don't push them away, you just allow them. That's kind of what he's saying. Keep walking, just go through your life and try not to get too caught up in some kind of psychosis and try not to give out too much of your psychosis and just kind of go through life like that. So they're saying we are the mirror, we're also the face of it. So we're both sides of the different things. Which is why I like the poem and that's why we put the music. So I was over in Saudi Arabia for 3 years, so, if you get culture shock, and maybe some of you people have traveled out of the country, different cultures, and I was a musician over there, and I played in the band, so I was rehearsing, and they stayed up a lot more at night than we do, so it was like midnight, and I'm coming out of rehearsal in a big compound. As I'm coming out and putting my equipment in the car, I see 7 people coming my way. So there's 3 people on each side, and there's a kind of a short person in the middle. They're coming my way. So I first thought it was my American psychosis that I was being paranoid. I'm thinking, they're not coming towards me. They got better things to do. So I'm putting my equipment in the car and getting things going. But they kept coming right towards me. And I kept trying to think, no, there's no danger. I'm flipping out. And they just kept getting closer and closer. So finally I was kind of done and I turned around and they all came up and they circled around me. So I had 7 people circling around me, which is, if you're an American and it's midnight and you're in a dark place. I was out in the middle of the desert in the parking lot of an apartment complex. And I was assuming the worst, and I was already reading the newspaper from the next day that, American was killed and, mugged in a parking lot. And I think most of you would think the same. You got 7 people. And so what they did was they spun the little guy around right in front of me. So I'm still thinking, this doesn't make any sense. And then they said, please, mister, please. So, 7 people, spinning the guy around, please, mister, please. And then one guy had what looked like a rope. Now, I wasn't thinking that the rope was a very positive part of this story. I couldn't. But what they were kind of saying was I was supposed to do something, not that they were going to rope me in. And then I looked, if you're an American, this is happening, your eyes are going like this. You're looking back and forth. Okay, who's got the knife or what's going to... So I finally looked at the rope and it was a necktie. A necktie. It's 12 o'clock at night, I'm on the parking lot, 7 people come up to me, that's not a cool thing. A necktie. And then I go, they want me to put the necktie on the little guy. So I put the necktie around the little guy, and I remember as I was doing this, I kept looking, because I thought, this is crazy. Any minute they're just going to pounce on me. I did the necktie, and I stood back, and they all went, together. Yeah. And then they said, shukran, shukran, which means thank you. And I'm like this, and they were all really happy, and they all walked away. Okay, you're chuckling, and I appreciate that. But it just, cultural norms, they're all different. Somehow they thought that was okay. When we walk, when it's late at night, we're walking down the street and we see somebody on our street, we'll go to the other side, right? Or we will try to avert looking at them. They're just, you don't want to have anything happen. So, but they were just right up front, like it was the middle of the day, and there was a lot of people around. Hey, mister, hey, tie this necktie for us. And I just thought that's crazy. But I was shaken. I got my car. I don't know what they got. I was died. And I thought, no, they just, they were curious. They just figured I knew how to do a necktie, and they were curious about my culture. They figured, that guy knows how to do this. But anyway, so I was there for 3 years. That's some of the crazy things that happened. But I like the musical part. They had a thing called Ramadan. You ever hear that? That's when they stay up all night. But it's never like, December 25th. It's never the same. They have a lunar calendar. So Ramadan always changes. It's not a seasonal thing. And I'd be driving home from a gig. I had my day gig there was, I was the audio engineer for the Ministry of Finance in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. That was my day gig, my government gig. And then, but I was playing music too. So I'd be coming home from a late gig in a Ramadan, and they would all be out in the desert with ouds and picnicking and lights on, play volleyball and the whole thing, and it was nutso. It's just not something you'd see here. So I thought I would do a Western tune because this thing was East meets West. And I wanted to tell you, are any blues people here? Anybody like blues? Okay, blues. So blues, there's a blues scale that's, it's called, it's pentatonic. It's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's pentatonic. But they have the blue note, which is the third. That's just going up octaves. But the bridge between Middle Eastern music and blues is that darn blues note, because in the Arab music they have quarter tone scales, which we don't have. And I can't play chords on an oud. An oud is like a lute, but there's no frets. You can't play chords because it's all out of pitch. You have to be able to do it perfectly. So an oud you play single notes on, but with frets you can't play unless you bend the notes. So that's that scale I did before. But there's all the notes in between quarter tone scales that it's hard to play on these. Anyway, blues. So I'm going to play a blues tune. And it's called Thrill Is Gone. Actually, it wasn't his song. It was some lady from the 20s or 30s or something, but he made it famous. He recorded it and made it for the masses. Thrill is gone, thrill is gone away. Thrill is gone, thrill is gone away. You done me wrong, be sorry someday. Thrill is gone, Though still alone, lonely I will be. Free now, free from your spell. Free now, I'm free from your spell. Now that's all over, do is wish you well. So, I don't know, you got any questions, or, you know, I played more classical music. Well, I started out in rock, you know, the Beatles. I did that kind of stuff, and then I got kind of into jazz. Then I, you know, when I went to Saudi Arabia, it kind of opened up a lot of different things, and I liked playing the Middle Eastern, and I felt that connection with it. That I think, you know, when the Beatles had the Indian music, remember they had Sgt. Pepper, and I like that, but the Middle Eastern I had more of a connection. So I know that I lived there in a past life, right? Come on. Speaking of that, that one tune, the first tune I played is called Love is a Miracle. And just a few nights ago, they had this thing about, what? Oh, question. Yeah, go ahead. I do not. But next time I'm here, I'll play that for you. They had a thing about Oprah Winfrey running for president. And I was cool with that. I thought, hey, it's pretty cool. I'm all right with it. But the one news commentator said, well, she had that kind of kooky thing about setting your intention. Thought, hey, what's kooky about that? What are you talking about? So I had this tune that's, you may think that love is a fight and everything is up to you, like, you know, you got to do everything for yourself. And then I said, what a shock when you discover that love chooses you, because in my experience, that's kind of the way it is. You know, you think things are supposed to be a certain way, all of a sudden someone comes into your life and bada bing, bada boom. So, when you set an intention that you're going to, like for me, perform more or do something, and then it comes true, I just feel like, hey, that's the way to... So she was saying that there was something, crazy with that. And I thought, what a nutty thing to say. So is that going to be in opposition to Oprah Winfrey if she runs for president? The people are going to say that she has, far out ideas? I'm asking for some dialogue here. Interaction. Don't leave me hanging alone, okay? Anybody got any opinions that they want to throw out there? Okay, maybe not. What's that?
We don't need more far out ideas. We've got enough there already.
Oh, what so you don't think Oprah should go for it?
I really don't feel one way or the other. As long as she's not who's there now.
Well, okay, all right. So, okay, I'm glad you said something. So the tie-in is, so then Trump said these shithole countries. And you know what? I know about you guys, but my grandfather, Felix Baragiano, came over on that darn boat from Italy in 1925. And he, the story I was told, he was fed up because he was in World War I, where he was in a camp, prisoner camp. And he came back to Italy and everything was lousy. So he saw America as being he was hopeful that he could have something for his family. And I wouldn't be sitting here tonight playing guitar, speaking English with no accent to you unless he came over. So he put up with a lot and he came over. And he's saying that shithole countries, but all Americans are descended from something. And did I hear it right that Trump's grandfather was thrown out of Germany for robbing somebody on a land contract swindle or something? Did anybody hear that? Yeah. That's the reason why he's here. How could he say that? How could he say all those? What's that?
He's got money.
He's got money. So, I just was amazed, and then when they said Oprah Winfrey, and then somebody said she had weird ideas, I thought, hey, I don't know about you. Have you ever thought of going and starting your own country or even going to Canada or something? You too? Okay, great. I know, but
I love my country.
What's that?
I love my country.
I do too, and then see when you feel like you were with your brothers and sisters when you're with a certain group of people, right? But maybe if you're out at the supermarket and somebody says something, you find out the guy next to you is a Trumper. It's a little uncomfortable. So I was telling Jim that, so I played in Seattle. We played, there's a place down in Sedona, Arizona that is, they're kind of like hippie and, my view of them, they were very spiritual. They were so spiritual, they wanted to go through the portals, but they didn't really want to come back and help and work and do anything. They just liked that experience. They were experiential, right? That's the word. So I did that. We played in New York. We played in Harlem a lot. There's a couple world music clubs in Harlem that would have me and my music play there. I was proud. I thought that was way cool. So I played at a lot of different places. So what I was telling Jim was there's a lot of, maybe it's hard for you to understand, there's a lot of places just like this in other cities in America. So there's a brotherhood already. There's already this resistance, this underground, see? And see, that makes me hopeful. So when I played in Sedona, even though we weren't perfectly in sync, and when I'm playing in Harlem, we weren't perfectly in sync, but I just felt like there was something there, and so that's what I was talking to Jim about, that, I feel like there is a kind of like an underground happening, and I'm happy to see the Democrats kind of come. But I don't want to go too crazy. There might be a Republican here who will kill me when
There probably are.
Is there? Oh, then I didn't mean anything I just said then. I was just kidding. No, I wasn't. I really meant it. Okay. This is just an instrument. This is a jazz kind of instrumental. It's a kind of a vibe piece that kind of guitar too loud? It's all right. So I should turn it up? Just kidding. It's all right. it's because I work this way. I have to play and then hit the buttons. Kind of weird. Okay, so when I was out in Seattle, I met these whirling dervish people. In Seattle, they had a multicultural, multi-spiritual, multi-religious thing. So they were always getting together. You know, we had belly dancers, and I played. Oh, belly dance. Let me just play one beat. I don't have the drum for it, but I'll get this feeling for it. It's a 9. So we don't have too many 9s. Dave Brubeck had some 9s. Blue Roundel on a Turk. It's a 9. But we don't have too many 9s, and it's belly. If there was a dancer here, we could show that they dance step, 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 and then they have a coin belt. Ching, ching, ching. Step, step, step. Ching, ching, ching. That's the beat, and they dance around. And it goes. People in the audience tonight? Perfect. Oh, we have one? Okay, the Eastern Europeans, they would do this dance. It's a 7. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that's the beat. So when they would do this, when you'd see them, they'd have a line of people, and the first guy had the handkerchief. Or some kind of cloth, I don't know what it was. Anyway, and they would, and it's like a bouncing steppy thing. So they would be all of them in unison. It's a very cool thing, and it sounds like. Sense that, or had you heard that before? No, never. Sometimes, maybe I wasn't born in Italy. I was born in America, but I would hear like Tarantella. I would hear my grandfather and his friends singing that. Yeah, they would sing it. When I was in, they lived in Staten Island. I'd go there and I would hear that. So I think the same thing with an Italian wedding. Yeah, they would hit it. Tarantella. It's a 6/8. So sometimes when I play the 7/4, some people will have a memory of it. And that one lady there who heard the A or minor scale, same deal. She might have heard it from her family when she. Okay, so. I was starting to talk about I confused myself. Yeah, the whirling dervishes. So that's Sufi. That's Sufi wisdom. And that's where that Rumi was a Sufi poet. So and they usually dance in white robes, and they have this little conical hat on their head. You ever see them? And they dance at a certain angle. It's like 30 degrees. So the idea is you start slow and then you speed up. You're kind of making yourself dizzy, but they view it as a way to raise conscious awareness. So they do that. So the guy asked me, "Hey, do you play any whirling dervish music?" And I said, "Can you hum a few bars?" So so they were kind of doing some stuff. So I kind of got the vibe of the beat and came up. That's what I heard. Boom, boom, ta-ta-ta, boom, boom, ta-ta-ta, boom, boom. See, some of these songs are hard to play. I'll try to recreate. This is called Moroccan Roll. So I call it Moroccan Roll. So what it was is we had a favorite spot. It was a Persian restaurant down in the it's called Southern. No. It's like the business district. It's Sodo, S-O-D-O. And he had the restaurant there, and we would go down and play. So one night he said, "Don, come on down. This is Friday or Saturday night." I went down there. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. This is Persian New Year. And we can't use you tonight." And I said, "Fred, I got the band. They're going to kill me. They're going to cut my head off." So he said, anyway, so I thought, how did I get this wrong? We talked on the phone. He said, "Come on over. We had a deal, man." So I thought, our communication is terrible between the East and the West, right? Or the Middle East and the West. So I was trying to save the world. I was talking to Jim today, and I said, we're trying to save the world. So I was trying to build a bridge between, Seattle, the West, and the Middle East. And I thought, what can I do? So I used that scale that I played before because I thought that was Middle Eastern. But I gave it like a blues feel, and the blues would be like... that was the feel I wanted, to have the American part, but then this scale. And then the drum beat was, there's one called Malfoofa's, it's kind of that feel. One, da, da, one, da, da. So that was kind of the drum beat for it, but, so this is Moroccan roll. I'll try to play it and I hope you can get an idea. You have to think there's dancers, there's drummers, there's a bass player behind me. Yeah, use your imagination. This is the perfect crowd for that, right? I was at they had a big Middle Eastern party one time, and, I loved all the drummers and the instrumentalists and the dancers, and I would hire them to play in my band. So my band was my original music, but it used all their tones, So I was trying to do an original thing. I was trying to save the world and build a bridge and all that stuff. So one time the one guy was from Iran, and he said, "Don, you know all the scales, you know all the beats, but you don't know any of our songs." So he said that. I said, "Yeah, but I listen to them, I like them, and I just pick out the parts I like, and then I make something else." That's what I thought music should be, I didn't really want to be I'm sorry, there's probably some musicians here, like a technician that would play just certain songs. I thought my path was to come up with something new. So that was my thing. I know, and I go places and they say, hey, can you play some of those Beatles songs? Well, I have. I don't want to do that. So that's for original music versus, playing covers.
The original music you did was on an American instrument. Were they used to hearing a guitar play that?
Well, not the traditional Middle Eastern, but all the pop. Shakira, there's a girl, she's a blonde-haired girl. So she uses those scales, and she uses those beats, but she plays pop. Yeah. And then when I was over there, I heard a lot of the Turkish and the younger kids. They had electric guitar, kind of just rang it away, And there is a guitar, it's called a sculpted guitar. They sand out the middle between the frets. So when you pull it, when you press it harder, you play a quarter tone scale. I never had that. I always did this. If I wanted to play this note, I had to go flat and then raise it. That's playing quarter tone scale. So, but I would learn that, the one scale that you can play on an American instrument, Western instrument, is that scale. There's even you flat the third. So there are some things that you can do, but most of them are not. Most of them they're all and quarter tone scale does not mean half. It's some of them are 30%, some of them are 70%. It's not just halfway in between each of the notes. There's the West.
Can your ear tell if that's out of tune when they're playing?
Some people can. We went into a radio station in Colorado, and she had us play my cello. So it was me and a cello. So I would play the big chords, and then I would ask him to play the different scales of quarter, and he would, because a violin and a cello has no fret, so they can play all of it. And the disc jockey, the lady, she played flute, and she said, "Did you play some of those quarter tone scales?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she said, "Well, I guess my Western brain is making the adjustment so I don't hear him." But that reaction I got from that one girl sitting there, that when I first heard, that's what that's the scale, and it just has that thing. So the tone of the electric guitar, the younger kids are doing it in the Middle East, but the traditional, it's all ouds and violin and all the drums. And the other thing, I don't know if you're interested in this, but the traditional Middle Eastern, they don't play any harmonies. They would never play. Which is 1 and 3, then 2 and 4, and then 3 and 5. They never play. They only play one note. And when they play a traditional thing, everybody in the band plays that same melody. They don't embellish it, or they just play that one. That was weird. So I would always want to. I'm sorry.
It's a different ear.
Yeah, maybe the difference between hearing a banjo or hearing Cajun music.
Even in China, Japan.
Oh yeah, that's
You're just used to hearing a different.
But I will tell you this. My professor in college said, "Don, Jimi Hendrix and Beethoven had the same 8 notes." So they had the same. So like the Japanese, you're talking the koto, K-Y-O-T-O, the gang, boing, 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 that has a different tonality to it. And then they'll play a little bit of quarter tone scale. But pretty much they play the same, they play pentatonic. 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah, that almost sounds Japanese. They play the same, it's pentatonic, but then they play all the... So they, in that scale I played, there's only one note. It's a flatted second. That's the only difference. And that makes it sound Middle Eastern. So one note. So Jimi Hendrix and Beethoven had the same 8 notes to play with. But different tonality, different rhythm, different feel, that kind of. Anybody else? want to share.
You mess around with Native American?
I don't really. We had those flutes, Native American flutes. They're like pentatonic, so I would have to play something simple that he would play.
I'm so curious about the rhythms, dance rhythms.
Oh, I'll tell you on the dark side of that. I work with a Lakota Indian, and he said to me, I said, I heard some Native American band last night, and he said, did they play that Hollywood Indian beat? Boom boom ba ba, boom boom ba ba, boom boom. And I said, well, that's no good. He said, we never played that. He was very haughty about that. That's like an insult. That boom boom ba, boom boom ba ba, boom boom ba ba. He said, we never played that. And he played some drums for me. It sounded like that. I couldn't do it. So, it's all that's acquired taste. I mean, I studied it, and I lived over there, and I played it, and I hung out with it's an acquired thing. You kind of work with it. I'm amazed at, the Indian music, because of the Beatles, yeah, but we had a tabla player, the two little drums, like they used in the Beatles, the Indian. We played great together. I love playing with it. So, anybody else got something to share? Did you do world traveling, sir? No?
Not much.
Well, where did you?
New York every once in a while.
What's that?
I get to New York every once in a while.
Where did you hear some Native American? Maybe Jim.
No, we ended up at a powwow by mistake.
Yeah, we went up at a powwow in Taos, New Mexico.
Did you do this? See, you were holding out on me. You did do some traveling. See? Well, you know what I meant. He was traveling.
This was in the United States.
Okay, when you went to the powwow,
By accident, I happened to be there and said, let's go there.
was it in the day or was it night? Was it like a touristy thing or was it?
No.
Oh, was it for real thing?
Very much not touristy.
Oh, did you feel uncomfortable? No?
We just didn't know what was going on.
Well,
It was kind of a cultural gathering with a bit of a country fair stuck in there.
oh, cool.
It was fun.
Way cool.
Although the strangest thing was they had a costume contest, a dance and a costume contest. And
And you won.
One of the guys, he's Native American, he's an Indian. He was wearing what looked like a Dallas Cowboys.
Really?
I just kind of thought that was wrong.
So it wasn't a traditional.
That one wasn't. There were lots of them that were.
Well, they got a sense of humor too about them, huh? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like, if there's something around, I like to go check it out, and I try to find the sameness. Like my teacher saying that Jimi Hendrix and Beethoven had the same 8 notes, or same 7 notes. So we all have the same thing to work with. So when I go check something out, and I like the Japanese thing, I could tell he was doing or she. That could sound Japanese. It's just a pentatonic, and then we play it with. We add to, we embellish it, but it's the same notes, same deal. Anybody else want to share? Jim, you got nothing to share? Come on, you're Mr. Music here.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to hear Native American music, you should stay tomorrow night and listen to.
I thought that was the Haitians.
Yeah, but one of the group is Silver Wind.
Oh.
So,
There's Native American flute players
Right.
here running. So for all of you who haven't gotten enough music tonight, tomorrow night there is a benefit for Haiti here. Many of the musicians who played at our community cup before, including Silver Wind, will be here. And they'll be raising money for solar panels on a school, a 3-room schoolhouse in Baragiano, Haiti. So if you want to come back tomorrow, there's more good music tomorrow night. And I'm told there may even be dancing, which we don't usually do at our community cup. So if you want to shake a leg for a good cause, you are most welcome. I think it's 6 to 10. So that's like, we're having
And why no dancing? Is this like what's that?
Native American dance.
What's that movie with no dancing? Yeah, no.
dancing?
What was it? No. You know, where Bacon came in and taught him how to dance. Footloose. Is this like Footloose? You band dancing?
Just like that.
Kind of. Well, I happen to have some CDs if anybody's interested in my music. I'll leave it up here.
Are you done?
I'm pretty much done.